Really? Are we really resorting to this level of pandering? Are we trying to put the final nail in the coffin at Woke Illustrated so the dirt can be thrown on their grave and this once legendary publication can rest peacefully in the woke cemetery? Is that what we're doing here? Throughout the week this week, I've mentioned a couple of times about things that have been devastated by the woke fungus. The NBA, CNN, the Cemetery News Network, Howie Stern, all three. All three are legendary in their respective industries, and they've all lost millions of viewers because of their dedication to the woke wiener. Now, I am not big into lists, but if we were to make a top 5 of leagues and publications that were most negatively impacted by the fungus, Woke Illustrated would make the list. There have been so many legendary covers of Sports Illustrated. The Miracle on Ice in 1980, before I was even born. The December 1984 edition featured Michael Jordan with the caption, "A Star is Born." Now, little did they know, a star was not born. The icon of icons was born. February 2002. A high schooler named LeBron James was on the cover with the caption, "The Chosen One." For decades, Sports Illustrated was the publication in sports. When they were focused on actually covering sports, Sports Illustrated was wildly successful. But 3 or 4 years ago, Sports Illustrated was inspired by the identifiers. They made the courageous decision to transition from Sports Illustrated to Woke Illustrated. As a result, damn near every writer that was capable of breathing without the assistance of an air compressor, they were all laid off. They could no longer afford to pay them because people were no longer subscribing to their shitty magazine. But instead of replacing their highly paid talent with college interns and minimum wage wanker spankers, Woke Illustrated, they decided to implement AI to generate their articles. And what do you get when artificial intelligence is programmed with a woke algorithm? You get a list of the top 50 most influential people in sports that make sure to meet the standards of diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel in the description below. Appreciate all of you guys who have already subscribed, and if you haven't yet, please head on over there and check it out. Like I said earlier, I am not really into lists. They have never piqued my interest. Top 5 bearded beauties who have dominated women's sports. The top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL today. I actually had one of my channel members yesterday ask for my list of the top quarterbacks in today's NFL. I said number 1, obviously Patrick Mahomes, and numbers 2 through 32 are week to week because there are no other elite quarterbacks in the league right now. Lists are entirely subjective, and oftentimes, content creators who make lists, they are doing so for one reason and one reason only: to get clicks. In the wrestling business, they used to call it a cheap pop or cheap heat, something that easily incites the crowd but lacks any creativity or imagination. That is what lists are. They're cheap heat. Which is why I usually ignore them. But when I saw this list from Woke Illustrated that featured the 50 most influential people in sports, I could not ignore it. I couldn't ignore the pandering. I couldn't ignore the virtue signaling because, like the rest of their pretend friends in the mainstream media, it is abundantly clear that the AI at Woke Illustrated, they are pandering to the WNBA dump. Let's start with the section that focused specifically on athletes. First name listed by the AI at Woke Illustrated, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. Other names included on the list: Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, Travis Hunter, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. You know, athletes that you've actually heard of. But then the list takes an anonymous turn. Woke Illustrated included Asia Wilson and Juju Watkins. Who and who? Now keep in mind, we're not talking about their game. We're not talking about their production on the court. We're talking about Influence. In order to have influence, you gotta have some level of mainstream recognition. How many of your wives or girlfriends have heard of Juju Watkins? Great player, great young woman, but does she really have influence? How many of your wives or girlfriends are emulating the fashion of AJ Wilson? Now, this is the same AJ Wilson that was so influential. She had to guilt Nike into giving her a shoe deal. Several months ago, Nike proudly announced their deal with Caitlin Clark, which immediately sparked claims of mythical racism. How dare they give this white woman millions of dollars when the real victims in the WNBA are still making minimum wage? Couple of weeks later, AJ Wilson lands a shoe deal with Nike. That's what Woke Illustrated is calling influential. Let's get to the section that features executives. Now, executives that made the list include Roger Goodell and Adam Silver. Now, whether you agree with them or not, there's no doubt that both of those dudes have influence. Mark Walter, chairman of the LA Dodgers, he made the list. I guess they are considering him influential because he signed Shohei Ohtani, but you know, it's real easy to have that kind of influence when you were giving someone $700 million. There were a lot of names in this section that I wasn't personally familiar with. Florentino Perez, president of Real Madrid. Tony Petiti, Tony Petit, Tony Teat. Whatever the fuck. He's the commissioner of the Big Ten. Even though I have never heard of some of these guys personally, they do have influential positions. But imagine my surprise. Just imagine my surprise when I see the diva of dump divas, Kat Engelbert, included on this list of influencers. Kat Engelbert? Really? The same Kat Engelbert who has absolutely no influence over her own players? The same Kat Engelbert who acquiesced to the unreasonable demands of WNBA players and agreed to give them private airfare that the WNBA cannot afford? The same Kat Engelbert that elevated the dump from losing $10 million a year to losing $50 million. The same Kat Engelbert that just issued an insincere apology to WNBA players because they were emotionally triggered when she refused to accuse fans of Caitlin Clark of mythical racism. That Kat Engelbert, that is who Woke Illustrated is calling influential? Who in the hell is she influencing? I don't know if Kat Engelbert has influence over Kat Engelbert. If she did, if she was actually the businesswoman that she claims to be, she would have made the smart business decision years ago and shut the WNBA dump down. Last but not least, Woke Illustrated listed a list of media influencers. First name on the list, Stephen A. Smith. I mean, I don't think anyone would argue against that. Stevie has become the face of sports media. Now, there are a lot of people confused as to how we got here. There's a lot of people confused as to how someone who knows damn near nothing about sports can become the face of sports media. But whether you like it or not, and guys like Dan Levitard definitely don't like it, but whether you like it or not, sports media is no longer about journalism. It's no longer about reporting. Sports media is about entertainment, and Stephen A. Smith is definitely entertaining. So he deserves his top spot on the list. Kirk Herbstreit's on the list, which is fine. That's fine. He's the face of college football. Kirk Herbstreit definitely has influence. Woke Illustrated, they included Player Podcast on the list. Jason Kelsey and his doofus brother Travis Swiffer, Paul George, Draymond Green. While I personally think Draymond Green is detestable, while I personally think Draymond Green is insufferable, the dude somehow has influence. I might not understand it, but I can't deny it. But after these names, the list completely falls apart. Now keep in mind, guys like Colin Cowherd, Dan Patrick, Pat McAfee, Rich Eisen, Shannon Sharp. Hey, it's me, Say! All these dudes who have a hell of a lot of influence, they were kept off the list. Who did Woke Illustrated replace them with? Who did Woke Illustrated feel was more influential than some of the biggest names in sports media? Andrea Carter, Elle Duncan, and I can never pronounce her name, Chiney Ogwumike? Chiney Ogwuma? Do I even need to say it? Do I even need to say what you know I'm about to say? Who, and who? If I walked inside the house right now and asked my wife, who is Elle Duncan? You know what she's going to say? Oh, Elle Duncan, she served me donuts and coffee this morning at Dunkin' Donuts. I rarely shop at Dollar General. Hell, I rarely shop, period. But last night, I needed something in a hurry. I didn't feel like going to Publix, so I stopped at Dollar General to pick it up. I think Andrea Carter was the young lady that was working behind the cash register. And Chiney Ogwumike? Really? Chiney? What the hell are we doing here? How in the hell can Woke Illustrated possibly claim that these women are more influential than the local sports reporter in Gay, Georgia? According to Woke Illustrated, these women are influential because they provide amazing coverage of the WNBA. Yeah, but who's watching it? Elle Duncan has a podcast on ESPN's YouTube channel. She has access to ESPN's over 12 million subscribers, yet for some reason, Elle Duncan can't draw flies to a fresh turd. She can't even convince 0.1% of those 12 million subscribers to watch her polished turd. And you want to tell me that Elle Duncan is influential? Elle Duncan's more influential than Colin Cowherd, Dan Patrick, Aaron Andrews, Sage Steele, Carissa Thompson, Rachel Nichols? Really? I am supposed to believe Elle Duncan is influential because she hosts a WNBA pregame show? This further proves that the mainstream media is begging you. They are begging you to accept the WNBA. Problem is, you won't do it. Now, you'll accept Caitlin Clark, but you are not accepting the rest of the league. Watch what happens this weekend, and we might get into this later today. Watch what happens this weekend. Watch what happens over the next couple of weeks, especially if Caitlin Clark is eliminated in the first round. We're about to see how much influence the WNBA actually has. But give me your thoughts on this. Sports Illustrated creates a list of the 50 most influential people in sports. The list is filled with people associated with the WNBA. Now, am I in the wrong? Is AJ Wilson influential? Is Elle Duncan influential? I don't see it. Hell, I don't ever see Elle Duncan, period. The only time Elle Duncan is making headlines is when she goes on First Take and tries to compare pregnancy to concussions in the NFL. But you tell me, is WNBA media influential? Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys later.